Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm Joshua Roberts, your host of this limited series titled One Nation Under God. Thank you so much for your participation and for tuning in today, wherever you may be throughout this beautiful and blessed country of the United States of America. Last week, I released the first episode of this podcast. You guys came with the best responses, critiques, criticism, feedback, support. Thank you guys so much for doing that. It makes this podcast possible, and I truly hope that the first episode has helped you become better researchers and help you become more informed of what's going on in today's society. I do, however, want to apologize, and I want you guys to forgive me. I want to start every podcast episode with a scripture, and I totally forgot to do that. But from here on out, every podcast episode will start with a scripture. Today, we're going to be in the book of Matthew in the New Testament, chapter 5, and we're going to be reading verses 43 and 44. It says, quote, "Ye have heard that it hath been said, Thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you." Close quote. I love that scripture. I couldn't name a better time for us to become better peacemakers. And if you haven't started, start today. This world, full of its anger and hate, contention and divisiveness, we need more peacemakers. Love each other, serve each other, and find ways that you can become a better person. I hope these scriptures at the beginning of each episode will help inspire you to become a better person and help give you some motivation to become more like our Savior, Jesus Christ. Thank you. Also, as I've mentioned in the first episode, some of you guys were a little confused on this, so I want to reiterate what I mentioned in the first episode, right? We have primary and we have secondary researchers. What's most common is what you and I are trying to be. We're trying to be secondary researchers, especially here on this podcast. Primary researchers go out and do their own genre of research. They do polling, they do surveys, they do interviews. They quite literally create their own things. They create their own numbers, their own graphs, their own everything. Those are primary researchers. Typically, those people do have certificates, but you don't need them. Secondary researchers are what you and I are trying to aspire to be. Secondary researchers take that research and we look at it and we say, okay, what are the statistics? What is this research saying? Once we find the answer or the solution or whatever whatever we find, we start networking and we start finding other pieces. So if I find a post on Instagram and it satisfies my bias or it satisfies my opinion, I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to say, what is the Democrats saying on the Democratic side? What are the Republicans saying on their side? And I'm going to take all these voices and all these opinions and statements and research, and I'm going to create my own network. Once you do that, the truth and facts don't lie. We can quite literally create our own research by taking all these other individual researches that have been done by primaries. That's the type of researcher I want us to be. You don't need certificates, you don't need badges, you don't need anything. I'm just trying to help you guys see real world issues and policies that are happening right around us. And I want you guys to be better researchers. I'm trying to be a better one, and I think you guys at home should be as well. The only certificate and badge that we need is the American flag. We have a freedom of speech. We have the right to know information throughout our country. So let's enjoy that privilege and right that we have. Let's take all this research and create something. Like I said, this podcast is not meant to deceive, convince, or even manipulate people. I'm just looking at the facts. I go on government sites and websites, whatever. I see posts here and there, but I take everything and I put it together. So let's do that today as we talk about illegal immigration, deportation, and of course, most recently, the 2025 government shutdown. When I do my research, this actually might help you become a better researcher also, but I put in a prompt and then I do cite, S-I-T-E, and then I do colon and then slash and then .gov. Basically what that does is it'll search up key terms or that phrase that you put into the search engine, and it'll look throughout all government documentations. Quite literally any website that has .gov. And so hopefully that helps just a little bit, because that's what I did for most of the research here on this very, very controversial topic. So most of the information that I got is from the Obama administration, the official White House documents, and it said literally from 1990 to 2007, the U.S. population of undocumented individuals grew from 3.5 to 11 million people. That's a lot. That's a lot of people. And because of the Obama administration, the quote size of the undocumented population has stopped growing for the first time in decades, close quote. Lots of people threw Trump under the bus when really Barack Obama put President Bush under the bus because, hey, he was the one who was allowing tons of illegal immigrants in, and Obama said, no, we're going to put a stop to this. And I want you to take a guess of whose quote this is, whether it's Obama's, Biden's, or Trump's. And he said, quote, "We need to be focused on heightening deterrence, enhance enforcement, stronger foreign cooperation, and greater capacity for federal agencies to ensure that our border remains secure." Close quote. Who said it? It wasn't Trump. It wasn't Biden. It was actually Barack Obama. Might have given that away with the statistic prior, but Obama said that. He wanted a secure border that was closed. He wanted to make sure that all the agencies, ICE, Department of Homeland Security, Border Patrol, he wanted to make sure that those departments were funded, and it really showed. He actually had some pretty high numbers of deportations as well. So working with the Obama administration, Secretary Johnson pushed to increase the strength of every federal agency by putting more funding to it, like I said, with ICE, DHS, and Border Patrol. And so overall, the Obama administration deported 1.18 million illegals in his first 3 years as president. And in 2012 alone, he deported 409,000 people, almost 410,000 people in 2012 alone. That's ridiculous numbers compared to what Trump has done. And everyone didn't bat an eye. Everyone kind of agreed. And quite frankly, I think it was just because he was a Democratic representative. Just because people start hating on Trump, guess what? Obama deported more people than Trump did in his first term. Another thing is Obama was known as the deporter-in-chief. Now, I'm not quite sure if that title still holds or if that's a really like an official title that people have given him, but I've heard it a lot. And he said, quote, "If you are a criminal, you will be deported. If you plan to enter the U.S. illegally, your chances of getting caught and sent back just went up." Close quote. That's Barack Obama. This ain't Trump. And might I add, the person who was vice president to Barack Obama was Joe Biden. So I don't know what the disconnect was between then and when Biden was in office, because clearly he didn't care about closed and secure borders. But with this in mind, here's a video about Barack Obama talking about his new immigration policy. And this is actually in the White House. Check this out.
"I continue to believe that the best way to solve this problem is by working together to pass that kind of common sense law. But until that happens, there are actions I have the legal authority to take as president, the same kinds of actions taken by Democratic and Republican presidents before me, that will help make our immigration system more fair and more just. Tonight, I'm announcing those actions. First, we'll build on our progress at the border with additional resources for our law enforcement personnel so that they can stem the flow of illegal crossings and speed the return of those who do cross over. Second, I'll make it easier and faster for high-skilled immigrants, graduates, and entrepreneurs to stay and contribute to our economy, as so many business leaders have proposed. Third, we'll take steps to deal responsibly with the millions of undocumented immigrants who already live in our country. I want to say more about this third issue because it generates the most passion and controversy. Even as we are a nation of immigrants, we're also a nation of laws. Undocumented workers broke our immigration laws, and I believe that they must be held accountable, especially those who may be dangerous. That's why over the past 6 years, deportations of criminals are up 80%. And that's why we're going to keep focusing enforcement resources on actual threats to our security. Felons, not families. Criminals, not children. Gang members, not a mom who's working hard to provide for her kids. We'll prioritize, just like law enforcement does every day. But even as we focus on deporting criminals, the fact is millions of immigrants in every state, of every race and nationality, still live here illegally. And let's be honest, tracking down, rounding up, and deporting millions of people isn't realistic. Anyone who suggests otherwise isn't being straight with you. It's also not who we are as Americans. After all, most of these immigrants have been here a long time. They work hard, often in tough, low-paying jobs. They support their families. They worship at our churches. Many of their kids are American-born or spent most of their lives here. And their hopes, dreams, and patriotism are just like ours. As my predecessor, President Bush, once put it, they are a part of American life.
So with that being said, knowing Obama's, wanting a secure border to limit how many people are coming into the country, I mean, this was the principles that he wanted to abide by. And this is kind of a policy that he wanted to implement immediately. And his vice president, Joe Biden, he had a completely different, it was a complete 180 when he was elected president. Under his watch and under the Biden administration, 6 to 7 million illegal immigrants crossed the border between the year 2021 and 2023. That number is definitely up in the 10 million region. And Biden believed in an open border policy. Even though he was vice president to quite literally the deporter in chief, and Joe Biden just didn't really, it didn't seem like he cared about how many people were coming into this country. And in December 2023, the Department of Homeland Security allowed an average of about 5,000 people a day. 5,000 illegal immigrants coming into our country a day. That's a lot. That is a lot. And from October to December 2023, the DHS reported an average of 1.7 million gotaways, of whom entered the country illegally under Biden's watch. So let me define this. A getaway is essentially an illegal immigrant who passes through the border unnoticed, unknown to the attention of the administration. We don't know what country they're from. We don't necessarily know when they came, who they are. We just know that they got away. So, so they just came in unnoticed. So that number up in the 10 million region definitely is very accurate. And on average each year, if not more, those who are under watch under the Biden administration, 618,000 illegal immigrants were free to live in U.S. communities across the nation who were convicted of criminal offenses from robbery to aggravated assault, sexual abuse or assault, murder, drug trafficking, child trafficking, and of course an endless array of other offenses. Now, this is not to mention most of them are still awaiting their own personal and pending criminal charges. So 618,000 of these criminals, of whom we kind of know, were living amongst our U.S. communities. And I've seen time and time again throughout the news, social media, of so many officers getting assaulted, so many women getting assaulted, and so many murders and plots and all of these things. And these criminals are quite literally tainting our country. And this is what Trump wants to do. And he wants to deport all of these criminals. And people who are here illegally, they broke the law. You're here illegally. And the chances of you breaking more laws in the future because you came in here illegally are very much, it's very much a possibility. And so the Biden administration deported 60% fewer illegal immigrants than the year 2019 when Trump was in his first term. So, we were still deporting illegals, but the Biden administration was 60% fewer criminals deported. So he did not deport. He really just didn't care. So the southern border was open. The Biden administration put an immediate halt on the completion of the wall. They didn't care about an open border, or they didn't care about the closed and security of a border. And they lacked the funding for police, ICE, and of course the DHS. And so the committee also reported how ICE officers had been forced to abandon interior immigration enforcement to process the flood of illegal immigrants arriving in the country every day. So basically, everyone backed up and said, we're not getting the funding, we're not getting the help that we need, we're being told to just stop. So people are just flooding in. And so basically, the Trump administration was welcomed with an open border, millions and millions of illegal immigrants and criminals. And we didn't know what nationalities. I mean, we kind of do know their nationalities, but we have nationalities from, Hispanics to Central Americans to South Americans to Middle Easterns. And of course, all of these Democratic cities hate Trump. So they're all, uniting together saying, illegal immigration, come here illegally so we can, bless you with homes and healthcare and all these fundings. And it was a mess to come to for the Trump administration. And much like what Obama did when he inherited the country from President Bush, he started deporting people, and he started saying, look, we need a closed and secure border. Trump is doing the same exact thing, and people are now freaking out because they hate Trump. It doesn't matter if you're Republican or Democrat, whether you really support Trump or really if you don't. I mean, it's more hypocrisy than anything from the Democratic Party for hating Trump for wanting to have a closed and secure border. I want a closed and secure border. However, I want people to come here legally to make sure that they can enjoy the freedoms and rights that we have. But if they come in here illegally, you broke the law. You can't be here. And so Trump, so far in his second term, January 2025 to September 2025, according to the Department of Homeland Security, just under 250 days, the Trump administration deported around 2 million illegal immigrants, both under deportation and voluntary leave. So he's deported so many people, criminals, and yeah, some people may at face value say, oh, you're deporting families and all that, but they're here illegally. And according to the DHS, there has been a 97% reduction in immigrants entering the United States illegally. 97% reduction from the past presidency. That's a staggering statistic. So notably, of that same percentage, of that same study, 49% of would-be illegals stopped their journey to the U.S. because they deemed it impossible to do so under the Trump administration. And on top of that, another research was done. They wanted to go even further. So they found that 46% felt the fear of being deported or detained. So their efforts were halted. So another thing is the Department of Homeland Security noticed all of the success Trump administration is in. The funding was going to them, and they received over 150,000 applications, whether it's for the Department of Homeland Security, Border Patrol, or federal agents. They literally received so many applications because people trust Trump to protect them and to give them the security and the funding that they need to keep a secure and closed border. Now, I truly want everybody in this entire world. I mean, there's a couple that I don't because, they're bad and evil, but I want everybody to come to the United States to enjoy the freedoms and the rights that we have. We have the best country in the entire world. Yeah, we're rebuilding it right now, the economy and all that, but we're the best country regardless. We have freedoms, we have rights, and I want everybody to come here legally. I understand that the process of becoming a legal citizen of the United States from other countries is very difficult. It's very lengthy, and you have to go through various testing, such as the citizenship test. I don't think the mass majority of Americans who've lived here their entire lives can pass that test. I truly don't think they can. Some of the questions are absurd, and quite frankly, it makes people not want to come to the United States. So what do? They come here illegally because it's too lengthy. It's too hard to get in. So I think they need to shorten that process. Of course, they need to go through all their background checks. They need to do everything in their power to make sure we're not allowing criminals in here. But I do think they need to shorten that process for those who want to come here legally. I also do think that the citizenship test shouldn't just be a questionnaire of all these little historical facts. I think that the citizenship test should go through the last few presidencies. What were their policies that they inherited? Which ones did they change? Which one did they abolish, and why? It's a very unbiased thing. Republican or Democrat, it should be moderate, right? Independent, should be right down the middle. What policies did they implement? Why did they implement it? What were people saying? I want people to know the last decade of our history, so that way when they come in and vote, they understand where people are coming from and what's been happening in our country. that will make them a better person to vote. Because quite frankly, today, Democrats want illegal immigrants to be here so that way they can vote for Democrats because they're giving them all this free stuff and they allowed us in here illegally. Let's just vote for them. And that's kind of what happens in governors' elections, presidential elections as well. And it's sad to see. So I really do think they need to shorten that process and make it easier to come in here. But you need to do so legally. We have laws here. We are free. We have rights, but we need to come here legally. I had a couple people actually in my comment section respond to the response that I posted last week about my topic. Some people said it's a punch in the face to those who want to come here legally when illegal immigrants just come in and roam free and get all these free things. I totally agree with that. I think people who want to come here legally should enjoy the freedoms and rights that we have. So whether you like it or not, whether you're Republican or Democrat, we need a secure border to make sure that our communities are safe and we know who's here. That's it. And this ties in perfectly with what's going on right now with the government shutdown. For over a month now, we've quite literally been in a government shutdown. And Democrats have voted 14 times to keep the government shut down. Now, once this video releases, it might be up. The government might be open. Who knows? But for right now, we all know that the Democrats have kept this government shut down and voted to do so 14 times. So I know there's a lot of people at home who don't necessarily understand what a government shutdown is, why it happens, how it happens, or what's the purpose of it. So if you viewers at home know, skip ahead just a little bit, not too much. But if you guys want to be a little bit more informed of what it is, I want to help explain that for you guys. And so right now, Democrats are using what's called a filibuster. Now, a filibuster is a fancy word to completely end debate and say, we're ending this. We're not talking about this indefinitely. And so once that's put into place, it pushes all the senators and representatives to come in and vote, right? And in order to pass or decline a vote or a policy or whatever they're debating about, you need 60 votes. Republicans, I believe, hold up to 53 I think it's 53 to 53. Correct me if I'm wrong. I have no idea. I didn't really do enough research on this, so don't quote me. But I know for a fact that there's 53 seats for Republicans. Now, in order to pass it or to decline it, they need 60 votes. Or the government needs 60 votes to pass or decline. So that means there needs to be 7 Democrats to vote with Republicans to really pass and reopen the government. So that's kind of the situation we're in. I'm sick and tired of seeing people on, news stations or even on social media who really have no idea how government works. And they look at it and they say, oh, well, the Republicans control the House, the Senate, and of course the presidency. Yeah, but the government of the United States has been formed to where one party doesn't rule the other, where ideas can be shared and policies can be either agreed on or debated upon or declined. That's why our nation and our government was created with 2 parties, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, put together, right? So we need people to agree with Republicans, we need people to agree with Democrats, and we need to create a better society, a perfect society, right? And so in this shutdown, mass majority of Democrats are voting to keep this government shut down. And so, yeah, it's really difficult to see because it seems like Chuck Schumer and the Democratic Party are putting their party first over the American people. John Fetterman even said he's a Democratic representative or a senator. I can't remember what his position is. Sorry about that, but it's kind of off the top of my head. But John Fetterman even said, look, we need to put our parties aside. We need to just be right down the middle and put the American people first. Because there are federal agents, officers, workers, officials, whatever. There are people working right now as we're watching this. Hopefully it's open now. But people who are working for free, air traffic controllers. And I've heard in the next few days, people or airline companies are going to be shutting down flights. We're nearing Thanksgiving time. We're nearing maybe Christmas time. And this is a very difficult time to do that. And Democrats kind of understand that. And they've constantly said, no, we're going to keep the government shut down. And there's people working without it. And one thing that I really love seeing is Senator Kennedy, Senator John Kennedy. He quite literally is trying to pass a bill right now to where it cuts off payment towards politicians during a government shutdown. Now, I like that thought. It's a great thought. And he's actually, during this time, he's not super far left. He's not super far right. He's actually a Republican. He's more down the middle. But he's refused pay during this time to set an example, to show this is what it should be. And I think that's a true leader. And here's a video of J.D. Vance apologizing to Democrats. And it's actually a really good video, and I think you guys should watch it.
Final point, and then we'll cut out of this press conference. Look, I've been a little bit unfair, and I want to correct this, because when I say the Democrats have shut down the government, it's actually the far left side of the Democratic Party, because to their great credit, 3 moderate Democrats joined 52 Senate Republicans to vote to reopen the government. We need 5 more reasonable Democrats to put the American people first and reopen the government. That's all that we're asking. Let's talk about health care policy. Let's make sure that we ensure that Americans' health insurance premiums don't go up. We want that, and we're willing to work with people for it, but they've got to reopen the government first.
So as J.D. Vance said, it's not all Democrats. We're not saying that the Democrat Party is really bad and the Republicans are really good. We're not saying that at all. J.D. Vance is saying, look, it's not the moderate Democrats. Even moderate Democrats are saying, yeah, we should probably reopen the government and push the clean resolution bill and push that, right? But the far left Democratic representatives and senators are saying, nope, we're not going to open this until we get what we get. So I'm going to break it down. I'm going to show you what Republicans want, and I'm going to show you what Democrats want. So here's what the Republicans want to pass. The Republicans want to pass a clean continuing resolution policy, or in this case, the CR policy. The House actually passed this policy, and it's waiting for Trump to sign it. And Democrats are saying, nope, we're not passing this, so we're going to filibuster and we're going to debate on this, and we're going to have to vote until we get what we want. And so Trump has already made so many cuts, so many government-funded cuts, or he's cut multiple unnecessary funding in our government. And clean in the CR policy means they don't want to add any additional policies. They just want to cut some of the funding, and they want to pass what's called the Big Beautiful Bill. Now, this isn't the passing of the policy or the bill of the Big Beautiful Bill, but the Big Beautiful Bill is kind of an asset in this CR policy. And Democrats are saying, no, we want our funding for X, Y, and Z, which I'll get to in a second. And so basically it is to maintain the current funding levels that the government has. And so when it goes through all these funding changes and policies and cleanup, the government can function with just the funding levels that they're at currently. And so as reported, or as according to John Kennedy, this Republican senator, Republicans want to end what he calls double dipping of 2.8 million people who are signing up for both Medicaid and Obamacare subsidies in multiple states. So essentially people are saying, okay, in let's say the state of Texas and the state of Florida and the state of New York, right? People are signing up for Medicaid and Obamacare, and they're getting all of the benefits from that. They're getting all of the benefits. They're signing up for multiple things in multiple states. They're getting funding for their medical health and their health care. And Senator Kennedy literally says they're taking advantage. It's called cheating, is what he said. And if this is the case, and we put an end to double dipping, this could save us in about 10 years $140 billion, of which I'm sure American citizens could use. Our cities could use that. Our country could use that money. And so people have been doing this with healthcare, and people have been doing this with FAFSA or any school-funded programs. People are taking advantage of it because here's why. People are taking advantage of it because there's no eligibility checks. Republicans want to make sure that people can enjoy these privileges and these rights from taxpayer money, from healthcare to FAFSA to Pell Grants to any scholarship to anything. They want to make sure that the American people can enjoy those privileges, right? However, there's no eligibility checks. We don't know. I mean, people are literally just signing up and saying, yeah, I have poor financial situations, and giving them to them. We need to have eligibility checks and make sure, yeah, okay, this is the job they have. This is how much they're making. This is how much the income is. This is how much money they have in banks and whatnot, and make sure that they can actually have it. Because here's why Senator Kennedy says this, and this is why Republicans want to push this, is because in Louisiana alone, they found in a statistic that they did, so they're primary researchers, they did a statistic and showed that 1,600 people in the state of Louisiana, in this small little pool of people, were making over 6 digits, and they were on Medicaid and Obamacare. How is that possible? When Medicaid is meant for low-income families who are barely making ends meet, where their financials are not really helping them make those ends meet. And these people are making 6 digits and basically taking advantage of these privileges that we're offering as a country to those citizens who are hardworking but just not making ends meet. That's why it's there. And so they also don't want to pass any additional provisions. So that's basically all it is. They just are saying, look, we've made all these funding changes. The government can fund here. We're just basically going to pass the CR. That's it. We don't want to add anything else. This is what we want to do. Now, here's what the Democrats want to pass. So, additional policies to be put onto the CR, and they won't open the government until they get what they want. So, this is what we'll see in headlines all over the news and social media, because the White House posts it all the time, Trump posts it all the time, and this is quite literally what it is. They want $1.5 trillion, not million, not billion, $1 trillion to fund illegal immigrant healthcare and other government spending trends that the previous administration, the Biden administration, put into effect. So here's a video of Donald Trump talking about this $1.5 trillion fund to illegal immigrants.
We can't be extorted to give $1.5 trillion to people that came into the country illegally, many from prisons, many drug dealers. A lot of people came in from mental institutions. They want to give a lot of money to the people that came in illegally. We have to get them out. No country can sustain that. That's not like an attack on our country. In no country, these are not going to be productive people. These are going to be anti-productive people. And we can all have big hearts. I have a bigger heart than anybody, but we can't let that happen. It's time for Republicans to do what they have to do, and that's terminate the filibuster. It's the only way you can do it.
To break down this video a little bit further, to break down the $1.5 trillion that the Democrats want to push onto the CR policy, here's a little breakdown. So Senator John Kennedy, he's a Republican representative, or senator, and he's pretty moderate. Like, he's not super far right. He's not a Democrat, super far left. He's pretty in the middle. He's pretty moderate. And he does what's called an OBBB provision speech. And so basically, he broke down all of the bills and all of the policies and all of the little fine-tuning and fine detailed work from the Republican side and from the Democrat side. So he's done a lot of research throughout this government shutdown to see what he should vote for. And he did his own research, and he quite frankly found that there was a lot of stuff that Democrats were not telling the American people. And so he broke down everything that was in the fine line of the Democratic agenda. And so I want to read these to you. This is based on his speech. Link in the description below. This was a couple days ago. So Senator Kennedy listed just a few of the following from the $1.5 trillion that the Democrats want to pass, the reason why the government is shut down. So they want to pass $3 million for circumcisions and vasectomies in Zambia, $500,000 for electric buses in Rwanda, $3.6 million for pastry cooking classes and dance focus groups for male prostitutes in Haiti, $6 million for media organizations for Palestinians, $833,000 for transgender people in Nepal, $300,000 for a pride parade in Lesotho, $882,000 for social media mentorship in Serbia, and $4.2 million for LGBTQI plus in the Western Balkans and Uganda. Senator Kennedy continues and says, quote, "I can spend the rest of the afternoon here. We took all that out It upset Ocasio-Cortez. It upset the socialist wing of her party. And now that wing of that party is now threatening all other Democrats to shut down the government until we get what we want. Close quote. I mean, breaking down this $1.5 trillion spending fund, the Biden administration quite literally have been doing this their entire administration, just giving money out like it's candy to all these different countries for certain programs that, quite frankly, don't need funding from the United States. They can do that on their own, right? And so Senator Kennedy and many other Republicans and many American citizens around the world are doing their own research saying, well, look, this is where the funding is going. Why are we supporting this? For me, I'm all for humanitarian aid. I'm all for giving money to countries that need it. I'm all for supporting programs that help clothe the naked, shelter the homeless, and also feed the hungry. I'm all for this. I'm all for giving all humans basic human rights. Food, water, shelter, clothing, education, stuff like that. Those are basic human rights, right? And so, as you all know, and as I've previously mentioned a couple times, and I'll continuously mention throughout this entirety of this limited series podcast, I'm a member and a very proud member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Within the church, we have countless service opportunities. Countless. It's an infinite number. We have humanitarian aid, we have donations, we have tithing, we have all of these things that help build up communities, cities, and countries around the world. In the year 2024 alone, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, through humanitarian aid alone, spent $1.45 billion to help clothe the naked, feed the hungry, shelter the homeless, and to quite literally fund for schooling, for building schools in the far reaches of Africa, to creating water wells in Africa and other countries, and building up hospitals and help build roads and all of these things that, quite frankly, every country needs. This humanitarian aid is what I support. I support all countries, whether or not, I agree with their policies or not, or whether they're good with financials or not. There's people there, and these people are children of God. We need to support them, and we need to make sure that we can clothe them and feed them and to make sure that they have the basic human rights. The Church of Jesus Christ has done this for years, almost centuries now, where they've taken donations, right? The $1.5 billion is just humanitarian aid. This isn't even including self-reliant programs, welfare programs, or even donations. That's not even including. That's just humanitarian aid. And so the United States had something like that called USAID. USAID is something very similar, where we go out to various countries and help build things for them and help build them up as people and as communities and as cities and as countries. That's what USAID is for. Face value, right? It is an amazing program. I know many people who have worked countless years working for USAID. At face value, USAID is an amazing thing. And I truly believe that through some of these fundings that I broke down previously about the $1.5 trillion, most of these things the Biden administration took and pushed under the rug. And as soon as the Trump administration came in, he's noticed all of these unnecessary fundings for programs that, quite frankly, aren't basic human rights, that aren't necessarily feeding anybody or really doing anything. And he's saying, nope, we're going to get rid of that. And so at face value, people are looking at that and saying, you're taking away USAID. And at face value, USAID is good, right? We as American people and American citizens need to stop with these agendas and these personalized biases and opinions. We need to just hone in and say, look, at face value, good or bad, face value, this is what it is. Let's dig deeper than that. Let's really break it down. Because if you break it down, you're going to start seeing, as Senator Kennedy saw, there's millions of dollars being funded to things that, quite frankly, American tax dollars should not be going to. If our money was going to building schools and hospitals and feeding people and building homes and really doing what USAID is supposed to do, I'm all for that. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has spent billions of dollars yearly, quite literally yearly, to help do these things. It's because we believe that all people are children of a loving Heavenly Father. And like I mentioned before, we need to love them and we need to care for each other and serve each other. That's why these programs are here. It's to help serve people because we're all human. We're all children of God. Whether you believe it or not, we are all children of God. And I served a 2-year full-time mission for the Church of Jesus Christ in the Dominican Republic. If you don't know where the Dominican Republic is, it's a small island. Well, I guess it's kind of a little bit bigger compared to the other islands in the Caribbean, but it's an island in the Caribbean sharing the same island with Haiti. I've come to love the people there. It's my second home. I miss it. I truly miss it. And I learned Spanish and I learned Haitian Creole. I not only served the people there, but I also preached the gospel of Jesus Christ. I helped serve people. I helped bring people closer to Jesus Christ and to help solidify their testimonies in him and to rededicate or to dedicate their lives to Jesus Christ. I didn't know them. When I went there, I was just a 18-year-old kid. I didn't know a lick of Spanish. I didn't know any of that. I didn't know the people there. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know what I was doing. But all I knew is that I loved the Lord and I loved what I was doing and I knew what I was teaching was true. And so service for me is an extreme privilege. I love the fact that the church has put forth so much effort into serving other people outside of the United States, throughout the world. And when it comes to funding through government portions and looking at things from government from like more of a religious site, I see funding as a huge privilege that we have as Americans taxpayers to see our hard-earned money go to other people to help them, to build things for them, to make sure that they have the basic human rights. But when funding goes to things like this is a little far-fetched. This is not what American tax dollars should be going for. And this is what Democrats, or the far-left Democrats, I should add, are leveraging. They're trying to add leverage through this government shutdown to get what they want so they can use more of this money. And that's why our economy is failing. And so I wanted to show you guys a video really quick about Karoline Leavitt. She's the press secretary of the Trump administration. She deals with press all the time. Here's her response to kind of the breakdown of this Democratic agenda.
Throughout this shutdown, Democrats have said this quiet part out loud. Senator Chuck Schumer, the leader of the caucus that is refusing to open the government, said, quote, "Every day gets better as the shutdown continues." Ask the air traffic controllers if every day is getting better, Senator Schumer. And House Democrat Catherine Clark said, "There are going to be families that are going to suffer. We take that responsibility seriously, but this is one of the few leverage points that we have." Here is a House Democrat who is admitting that they are using Americans who are suffering as political leverage. And Senator Bernie Sanders said, "If you reopen the government, we lose our leverage." This is pure partisan games.
They're quite literally using the American people as leverage. We heard Chuck Schumer, we heard Senator Clark, we've heard Bernie Sanders. These are all socialist people who just want to give out stuff for free. They just don't think there's any consequences to that. And so it's disheartening to hear that super far left socialist Democrats are using the American people in this government shutdown as leverage. And it's not me saying it. It's not just because I'm a little bit more Republican. It's not because of that. It's because these people who are Chuck Schumer, Senator Clark, and countless others are literally saying they're using this as leverage. Disheartening, and it's quite frankly sickening. And as whether you're Republican or Democrat, you got to look at that and think, I got to dig a little bit deeper than what face value is, because there's a lot to think about. There is. And so after voting, after Democrats voted 14 times to keep the government shut down, Chuck Schumer and the super far left Democrats came up with a compromise. And this is what I think it was either yesterday or today. By the time this video comes out, it'll be last week. But Chuck Schumer said, quote, "Democrats are ready to clear the way to quickly pass a government funding bill that includes health care affordability. Leader Thune just needs to add a clean 1-year extension of the ACA tax credits to the CR so that way we can immediately address rising healthcare costs." Close quote. Look, I do agree. Healthcare costs should be cheaper, right? Because it's so expensive. I do agree with that. However, if we look at it at face value, that's what you see. They want to lower healthcare costs. Who doesn't want that, right? However, if we dig a little bit deeper and understand truly what the agenda is, what it lies in the fine lines in their bill and policies, here's what we find. Senator Kennedy broke it down for us. So here's a video of that.
What Senator Schumer is suggesting is that we do the dumbest thing possible that won't work. Stupid should hurt more. Senator Schumer says we should just extend the status quo for a year. What does that mean? That means that we would have to take $35 billion of taxpayer money and give it directly to the health insurance companies without any commitment of lowering premiums. How is that going to reduce health care costs? How's that going to reduce premiums? The health care companies are going to take $35 billion from the taxpayers and put it into their pockets. I mean, duh. I don't know what Senator Schumer is thinking. Earth to Chuck. I mean, earth to Chuck. Am I going to vote for this? The short answer is no. The long answer is hell no.
Senator Kennedy, thank you for breaking that down for us and for making it very simple. He's very moderate. He's very down the middle, down to earth. He has friends on the right, friends on the left, and he is extremely down the middle. He's extremely humble. And actually, he's trying to pass a bill currently to make sure that, he wants to pass a bill so that way politicians can't earn money during the government shutdown. He's not earning money. Extremely humble guy. And he's an amazing asset to our government. And he needs to be protected at all costs. He's a great human being, and I'm grateful for him and for his support in doing this research for us as Americans. And I'm really glad that I can bring this information to you guys at home to bring a little bit more awareness. And so I'm going to keep reiterating this as much as possible. My podcast is not meant to deceive, convince, or even manipulate people. It's not, because the truth and the facts don't lie. I'm just reading off of research that I've done off of a Google Doc, and this is information that you guys can find at home. So I want you to take this podcast, listen to it, and understand that this is my voice. This is my freedom of speech, right? I've had the right to research, and I've done it. But I want you to take that and listen to it and say, oh, here's one piece of the puzzle. I'm going to go out and network and do my own research and figure out what for me is truth. And so hopefully this video has helped you guys become a little bit more informed of what's going on. Hopefully the breakdown and the videos helped and kind of shine some light of what's going on in our country today. Thank you guys so much for watching and, of course, for your participation. It is greatly appreciated, and it's what truly makes this podcast special. Thank you guys so much, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. Until next time, God bless you. God bless America. And truly, thank you for all that you've done. Thank you.